So, we've got a story for you this morning about a very special invention that has made Sunderland famous all around the world. And it's called Pyrex. Does anyone think they know what Pyrex is?
Cornings in America were using the glass for railway lanterns.
They had problems on the railways with the lanterns cracking and smashing because the glass just wasn't strong enough. So they would add boron to glass and it made the properties change, so it was able to be more flexible in the heat so that it wasn't brittle.
And the story is that Jesse Littleton, who was an engineer at Cornings, used one of those lanterns to take home to his wife Bessie to cook with.
It was like the sawn off bottom of a lantern, and Bessie started cooking different recipes in it. So I think there were sponge cakes, there was roast chickens, and what you noticed was it was really even, the cooking, and also that because it was clear glass you could see what you were cooking within it. Sunderland has that glass making tradition. There was already a long history of quality glass within the city, and I think that is recognised around the world, so that when Sunderland came calling to Cornings, it was kind of understood that that would be a safe pair of hands to take that brand around the Commonwealth.
And then they began their production in 1922.
Glass has been made in Sunderland for thousands of years, but Pyrex was more than just a factory. It was a community, it was a family.
They would organise trips and, have events. Pyrex was just like part of my childhood, because with Dad working there and having shifts at Pyrex, our life was woven round his when he was off duty. So I knew off by heart 10 till 2, 2 till 10, 10 till 6. I do remember him coming home one day with, I don't know what kind of plate it was, but he said, "What do you think of this?" And we said, "Oh, it's nice." And he threw it across the floor. He said, "And what do you think of this one?" He said, "Pyrex is indestructible," and remember thinking, wow, But again, I thought it was due to him, not due to, when you're young, you just think your dad's great.
How many years do you think you've had that plate for?
A long time.
That's St Peter's Church, isn't it, there? Yeah, because you can see the cranes in the background when the shipyards and everything were there.
Everybody worked at Pyrex at some time or other, I think.
So when I went for the interview, I did emphasise the fact that I had a baby at home. So I was absolutely astounded that I got the job.
I remember going along Neville Road with my pushchair for our journey had to be taken by my husband while I went to work, and he was coming home about must have been 5 o'clock or something, and I was going 6 till 10, and I used to panic in case he wasn't there, and she was in a pushchair waiting, what am I going to do if he doesn't turn?
I think the main thing about Pyrex was the support you got off all the girls that you worked with. Even though you didn't have time to sort of sit and get to know them because it was so hands-on, full-on, they were just always there for you. I suppose like family.
I've just seen this lady, she says, "Hey, you had a good time there, didn't we?" Which we did. Well, it made Sunderland, you know what I mean? Oh, that's where Pyrex are made, and that's,
So, as you know, we're collecting Pyrex memories, and we've talked about Panacity and other things. But what I want you to do first is to choose a piece that you particularly like, that either sparks a memory for you or makes you think of something, or that you like the pattern or the design.
This was a wedding present from my husband's father's work friend, and I mean then people couldn't really afford much. But I got a lot of Pyrex as wedding presents.
My Auntie Kath is obsessed with tea, and every half hour she'll say, "Shall I have a cup of tea?" So this was the set that she used to have in the cupboard, and it had coffee cups, or taller ones than that.
I can remember me nana and my great nana having teas and coffees and things like this. There's always just memories of her, because obviously it's Pyrex, and Pyrex is that era.
Everybody remembers a recipe or a dish that was made out of Pyrex. I think also you remember it from being young. You see a pattern, it triggers a memory of a person.
I remember having my first cup of tea in one of those plastic glass cups. My dad, with working at Pyrex, you know, he was very proud and had the whole sort of dinner set, the cups, the plates.
Jim and I are both from a family of 5, so as you can imagine, if we had christenings or anything like that, then there was a good number of people there. So we would make big trifles in there or big salads.
Whenever there were parties, at the end of the party everyone had to identify all the dishes and bowls and baking trays and what have you, and because there were so many people there, you often went home with the wrong thing. Now obviously Mum didn't want to leave without her precious bowl, Pyrex bowl, so...
It's got the name on.
It's got her name.
When I was about to get married and I needed all this stuff, the shop was just stocked to the rooftops, I would say, with Pyrex in boxes. There was seconds there that you could buy for next to nothing. It was a case of, oh, I'll buy this, I'll buy that. But it was like being a kid in a sweet shop at the time.
Jim's aunt.
Oh yes, she lived down
She was single aunt.
She came up all the way on the train and in bus changes and things for the wedding.
So she lived in
with
Epsom,
the big
didn't
box
she?
With the yes,
in it.
And it was quite a large box that it came in, so she must have had a job getting it up to the northeast, really.
Yes.
You gave me this. I can't remember when you gave me it because things appear in my house. Often you're getting rid of things and you shove them in my car and then I realise and then they appear here. So it appeared in my cupboard one day. But it actually gets used quite a lot because now I'm often doing the Sunday lunch.
When I grew up around the age of 5, 6, 7, every home that you went in Ghana, you will find a Pyrex bowl, you know, where mostly is the man of the house who normally eats from that bowl. My dad was a miner. He finishes 5 p.m. Before he comes, you know, we have already made his food, store it in the Pyrex bowl because that thing was the ability to store heat. It was like a tradition. When your dad eats in that bowl for a longer time, he passes on to the next person, like, you know, your senior brother or sister. Anytime you'll be eating from your own plastic bowl, you'll be looking at your dad. You know, when are you going to have when are you going to have that? You want to eat from that kind of, you want to have a feel, you know, eating in a glass bowl. During that time, I didn't know there was a Pyrex bowl. I didn't even know the name that was a Pyrex bowl.
Sunderland's got a lot to celebrate. We've got a lot of contemporary glassmaking that happens in the city, so we want people to take pride in that.
I searched through online and everything for schools in order to pursue, you know, glass, the artistic aspect and the science aspect of glass. And it's like Sunderland was just popping up, Sunderland, you know. I felt like, yeah, this was the place where I could come, you know, to tap the knowledge that I wanted to. But when I came over here, then I realized that, oh, so the bowl that we were eating was a Pyrex and then it was from here. My dream is to buy the set and take it back to my dad and say, look, this is your Pyrex box. Now I've bought it for you. Yeah, that kind of feeling, yeah.
I've been seriously collecting for probably close to about 12 years. We never really thought much about it as someone younger growing up. It's just an everyday item in Mum's kitchen. When I started collecting Pyrex, there was a very limited amount of information found online about the production of Pyrex outside of America. There was just nothing. And on the back of this thirst for knowledge, I created an online reference guide, which captured not only patent names, but production. It captured original catalogues, leaflets. A book titled Dots and Diamonds came out in November 2017. Throughout the period of me doing my research, I was sourcing as much Pyrex as I could. So we would probably come very close to being in the top 5 people, if not less, that have the largest collection of English Pyrex.
From a pattern perspective, they're very simple and they're well placed, and the use of colour, the colour palettes that they used then are still the colour palettes that are in vogue now. Being a print designer, we would always look towards kind of future trends, and by looking towards future trends, you naturally look on trends and things that have gone before. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, but just by putting a little twist on something, it can really freshen the idea up and it gives it a whole new lease of life. you can see why you can put it on a kitchen table and it still holds its own.
It is absolutely, a sustainable product. These are products that were made 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago that are still used in kitchens today. They've been handed down through generations. I know today there's collectors and non-collectors alike that are using pieces that belong to their mums, belong to their aunts, belong to their grandma.
It's built to do the job, but actually it's got this kind of quirkiness to it that it makes you smile at the same time. I think that's a lovely combination.
There's very few items you would find that fit within that same realm of being quite utilitarian, but also still quite practical and collectible and beautiful all at the same time.
I've always been a collector, and yeah, Pyrex just fit, and I can't really say why. It was common. You found it everywhere. Everyone's grandmother had some, so stuff always ended up in charity shops. They always ended up at thrift stores. It was pretty, it was collectible, they had loads of different patterns. There was always something else you could find. For me, it was when I realized I was looking at not just pretty dishes, I was flipping them over to try and figure out who made them. Is that Pyrex? But it's nice to collect something that is useful too. Most of our plates and bowls and teacups and everything we kind of use every day is generally Pyrex. It's all kind of, just part of my daily life, I suppose. People have huge emotional attachments to things. The idea, you go to a boot sale and someone's selling some bowls and you pick them up and they go, oh, those are my grandmother's, and they want to know that you're going to love them because they loved them.
So Grandma's Chelsea ware was my first love, my first pieces. And then I just started buying more. When I saw them about, I was just like, yeah, I'll have that. And my collection just grew. We've got pieces in the family that are now on their 4th generation. This gravy boat, this was part of my grandma's collection. She cooked and used it for her kids. Dad took some when he moved out, and then I took it when I moved out. December 2020, Grandma passed away, and I took the gravy boat into the tattoo parlour and was like, I want this. I just decided to get a tattoo to represent a love for my grandma and remembrance to her, and my love for Pyrex.
It's about looking back through history, but it's also about looking forwards.
We're at Sunderland Museum and Winter Gardens today. We're here celebrating 100 years of Pyrex, and we're just here to try out our own designs and get inspired by Pyrex.
We're doing this transfer thing where you put the tape on the picture and then it absorbs the ink. And then you have to put them on and make them in the water and then wait 5 minutes and peel off the back. And then stick them on.
What's your design going to be? Have you got a plan?
Flowers and birds.
Flowers and birds. So what's going to go in the middle there then?
Where is it? That one.
And what are you going to do with your plate, do you think?
I'm probably going to put jewellery or something on it.
Put it in my room as a decoration.
Everyone's got that shared history, and even if it's different generations, it's still part of our story.
It had this warm feeling about Pyrex. It wasn't just a factory. People were joined and part of it. Because Pyrex belonged to Sunderland, it was sort of the heart of Sunderland. So I'm thrilled that the title of this is called Love Pyrex, and I think, isn't that beautiful? Not just say, cups and saucers and glasses. It's life, it's people.